You stared at your bank account last Friday and realized your meager salary does not cover the cost of your own survival. Whoever applies cold calculation to a tiny stream of income builds an impenetrable fortress, while the loud crowd starves. In his 1532 book, The Prince, Niccolo Machiavelli observes a ruler taking control of a small, impoverished city. The ruler refuses to throw lavish banquets for his eager subjects. He locks the heavy treasury doors. He ignores the immediate hatred of the peasants because he knows that a generous prince becomes a bankrupt prince. He practices absolute stinginess to ensure the city survives the coming winter siege. Building wealth on a limited income requires the exact same ruthless starvation of your own ego. The first strategy demands that you embrace the reputation of a miser. You must stop trying to appear generous to people who cannot help you survive. You felt the sting of this required cruelty last month when a relative asked for a small financial favor. You looked at your limited savings and handed over the cash because you feared their quiet judgment. You traded a piece of your financial armor for a fleeting moment of social approval. You knew the money was gone the second it left your hand. You paid a heavy tax on your own guilt. Sympathy bankrupts the weak. Eliminating the parasites seals the cracks, but protecting that tiny surplus from the envy of the street requires a masterful manipulation of outward appearances. In his 1647 book, The Art of Worldly Wisdom, Baltasar Gracian watches a cunning Spanish diplomat arrive at a foreign court. The diplomat wears a plain coat of dark wool, while his rivals parade in heavy gold silk. He hides his sharp intellect and his deep treasury from the hungry crowd. He weaponizes the appearance of poverty to make his enemies lower their guard. He operates in the dark shadows without drawing tax or request. The second harsh strategy is the deliberate projection of total failure. When your income is small, the slightest display of success attracts predators who want a piece of the new surplus. You must drive the older car, wear the faded jacket, and complain about the high cost of living. You create a psychological barrier that prevents anyone from asking you for a favor or a loan. You let your neighbors feel superior while you stack the invisible bricks in silence. You practiced this exact deception last week when a coworker asked how you afford to live in the city. You fabricated a story about a strict budget and massive credit card debt. You watched their eyes soften with genuine pity as they walked away. You smiled because your bank account held 6 months of living expenses in absolute secrecy. You bought their silence with a calculated lie. You understand that a visible treasury is a vulnerable treasury. The third strategy involves never allowing your right hand to know what your left hand hoards. You keep your bank balances, your side income, and your investments hidden from your closest friends and romantic partners. Deception guards the treasury. Hiding the money ensures it is not stolen by your friends, but preventing you from stealing it from yourself requires a psychological violence against your own desires. In his 1851 book, The Wisdom of Life, Arthur Schopenhauer examines a solitary man sitting in a modest room. The man possesses a small inherited fortune. He does not view the gold coins as a mechanism to purchase luxury, fine wine, or social status among his peers. Schopenhauer observes that the man views the money as an impenetrable wall built to defend him against the unpredictable disasters of human existence. He treats the capital as a loaded weapon. The fourth strategy requires you to view your limited income not as spending power, but as defensive ammunition. You must extract a percentage of your paycheck with absolute force before you pay a single bill. You manufacture a personal crisis to protect the surplus. You experienced this manufactured crisis last month when you moved a fraction of your salary into a hidden account on payday. You looked at the remaining balance and realized you lacked the funds to cover your usual weekend entertainment. You sat in your apartment and ate cheap food while your friends gathered at a loud tavern. You felt a wave of intense physical frustration. You survived the weekend without spending a dime. Discipline creates the fortress. Locking the capital away hardens the shield. But expanding that treasury without increasing your paycheck requires a predatory extraction of your current environment. In his 1530 book, Ricordi, Francesco Guicciardini examines a Florentine ambassador stationed in a distant, hostile kingdom. The ambassador receives a tiny stipend from his home city. He does not complain about the severe lack of funds. He uses the lavish library and the fast horses of his host to conduct business. He extracts the physical resources of the foreign court to build his personal merchant network in total silence. The fifth and sixth strategies demand the ruthless exploitation of your current employer. Your limited salary is the absolute least valuable thing the company provides. You must steal their expensive training, use their premium software, and absorb their private client lists. You view the corporate office as a rich foreign court waiting to be stripped to the bone. You trade your physical presence for a free education in how the machine operates. You executed this extraction yesterday when you stayed at your desk an hour after your shift ended. You opened a separate browser window and used the company database to research a specific market for your own side project. You let the corporate internet and the corporate electricity fund your quiet escape plan. You stole the invisible assets. The wage is a distraction. Stealing the invisible assets builds your foundation, but navigating the social web of the working class requires neutralizing the silent weapons used to extract your money. In his 1925 book, The Gift, Marcel Mauss studies the exchange of objects in ancient tribal societies. A tribal chief hosts a massive feast and forces expensive gifts into the hands of his rivals. The rivals smile and accept the physical objects. Mauss observes that the gift is a weapon. The gift is not an act of kindness, but a declaration of war that forces the rival into a state of deep, unpayable debt. The seventh strategy requires you to view every free drink, every birthday present, and every casual favor as a hostile attempt to capture your future capital. When you have a limited income, accepting a free lunch creates a psychological obligation to pay for a larger meal later. You felt the weight of this hook last December when an acquaintance handed you an expensive wrapped box. You did not have a gift to return. You felt a massive wave of panic and rushed to a retail store to buy an overpriced item you could not afford just to balance the ledger. You traded your hard-earned surplus to neutralize a social threat disguised as a friendly gesture. Obligation drains the poor. Rejecting the invisible hook preserves your remaining cash, But deploying that small capital requires stripping emotion from the transaction and waiting for blood. In his 1979 book, The Wheels of Commerce, Fernand Braudel observes a shrewd merchant walking through a European village at dusk. The merchant ignores the loud, festive central market where the prices are fixed and the crowds are thick. He walks to the muddy edge of the town. He finds a desperate farmer whose heavy wooden wagon wheel broke in the deep mud. The merchant offers a fraction of the actual value for the stranded cargo. The 8th and 9th strategies require you to hunt for human desperation. You never buy assets, tools, or materials at the retail price. You hover on the edges of the market, holding your small pile of cash. You wait for a divorce or a sudden job loss.
You offer fast cash to a person who has run out of time and options. You extract massive value from their sudden panic and misfortune. You felt the cold reality of this tactic last Sunday when you browsed an online local marketplace. You found a terrified homeowner selling professional equipment at a massive loss to make rent by Monday morning. You drove to their house and handed them a small stack of paper bills.
You loaded the heavy iron tools into your trunk without a trace of guilt. You did not offer a fair price to a man in a bind. You offered a brutal exit. You understand that the market does not reward fairness or charity. The market rewards the person holding the cash when the other person holds the emergency. You built your inventory on the back of someone else's failure. Desperation creates the discount. Buying from the desperate accelerates the accumulation of hard assets, but protecting your mind from the guilt of this ruthless accumulation requires the creation of a distinct economic avatar. In his 1959 book, The Presentation of Self in Everyday Life, Irving Goffman watches a waiter working in a premium restaurant. The waiter smiles with forced warmth, bows to the wealthy patrons, and projects extreme subservience in the dining room. He pushes through the swinging wooden doors. The moment the heavy door closes, the warm smile vanishes. He drops the silver tray and curses the demanding customers with a cold, blank stare. He separates the performance from his actual soul. The 10th strategy demands the creation of a sociopathic business avatar. You separate your true personal identity from the character who handles your money. The avatar negotiates with brutal force, refuses to work for free, and cuts inefficient partners without hesitation. When a close friend asks for a discount on your services, the avatar issues the invoice at full price. You blame the rigid policies of your own invisible business structure to avoid the personal confrontation. You engaged this cold avatar 2 weeks ago when a client demanded an extra revision without offering additional payment. You felt the natural human urge to please them and avoid a tense negotiation. You stopped breathing and channeled the dark avatar. You typed a harsh email refusing the extra work without a signed contract and an upfront deposit. You hit send and felt your heart race in your chest. The client paid the premium invoice the next morning without a single complaint. You realized the world respects the boundary it cannot push. You enforce this invisible barrier against everyone who attempts to steal your remaining time. Emotion limits your leverage. Building wealth on a limited income is a violent act of rebellion against a system that demands your permanent poverty. Whoever stripped the emotion from their financial decisions and treated their small income as a weapon built an empire from the dirt. The cunning diplomat in the Spanish court wore cheap wool to hide his sharp intellect. He allowed his arrogant rivals to underestimate his power while he drained their resources in total silence.
He bought the control of the entire kingdom without ever drawing a physical sword. Tomorrow morning, you will face a world that wants to drain your meager resources through guilt and manufactured social obligation. The character from the historical court shared his ruthless methods only with those who stepped into the shadows to learn the brutal truth. Something on this screen keeps you standing in those shadows. The aware minority grows one at a time.